Well, it's an unusual day today because we don't have much wind, but what hasn't changed is the temperatures. For the last few weeks, we have been experiencing temperature ranges of between 34 to 39 degrees Celsius, non-stop, and absolutely no rain at all during the month of June. Apart from the very last day when we got 6 millimeters, which is just not enough. And if you look around at this ground here, you can see just how dry it is. You might recall a few weeks ago we did a video about the wildflowers that we had in this space here, and as you can see, they've all gone. I actually cut them down when they all died back so I can get a bit of a mulch back into the ground to regenerate for the following year, but there's nothing here. I mean, look, this is not good. Now, I can't water this space because it's a waste of water, because I've got nothing growing in here. If we look out beyond, you can see the cornfields that have been harvested, the wheat, and then we've cut the grass in the front here, and we've got 4 bales left. We did have 6 in total. But as I say, it is very, very dry. Let me give you another example. So this is where we park the cars. I mean, look at the ground. It is bone dry. It's also a fire hazard. And we've got these 2 buddleias here and this lilac, and we've got 4 lilacs over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lilacs. And you'll notice I've got a sprinkler. And so just to keep these guys going, I give them a 4-hour soak every 3 or 4 days, just to give them a chance. But they are really struggling, as you can probably make out. But not everything is as dire as this. Now you're going to make out the hose pipes, because I've got sprinklers here, and I'm having to do this because, this is our front garden here. We get a lot of pleasure, and so while we can't perhaps eat everything here apart from maybe this lavender, we do want to keep it watered. And these tree lilies are a fantastic example. They've got to be over 1.5 meters tall now, and when these guys die back, which isn't far away, we'll be splitting those bulbs out and transplanting them on. But I've got a mixture of soaker hoses in here, especially through this section here, and the sprinklers, just to give everything a good drink and also reduce the temperatures. And obviously I use water on a separate hose for the greenhouse, and we've got the irrigation system in the vegetable patch. Now look, it's an obvious statement to make, but where I've not got any water hitting the ground, you can see dry parts. You might recall the other day I did a video about mulching the beds, and here we go with the beans. So this, all these vegetable beds here have got the soaker hoses in, and you can't see them now because the straw has been put down, but the beans are looking quite healthy. But there's a couple of things I'm trying to achieve here. So you'll see that there's quite a bit of weed growth, shall we say, in there. I'm leaving it there because it's helping me protect the crop that I want at the end of the day. And it's the same in this situation where I've got half a row of beans there, but I've also got some squashes. We'll come back to that in a second. And this is another bed of squash, and again I'm just letting the weeds grow. As they get a bit too tall, I can pull them out, throw them on the compost heap, no problem. But again, it's providing a little bit of shelter from these really strong temperatures and UV rays that we're getting. So just imagine if you get sunburn on your own skin, what's it doing to these plants? So I've got this one here as well, and in the middle of these 2 rows are the bedroot amaranths that are growing up. They're getting quite close to start producing flowers, so now's the time for me to be putting these out again, either adding them to the compost or just leaving them in the ground to rot down and compost in place. These are the only areas that are getting water, and as you can see from here, these areas aren't. So the ground is fairly hard because it's being baked solid. But when we look back, okay, I've got a lot of greenery there, but that's a mixture of the crops. So this particular bed, I've got some butternuts in here. No, I haven't. I've got tox in here. And again, these weeds are shielding the plants just to get them to set fruit and start going. And I can see quite a few flowers on there now. But the other problem with this heat is the lack of insects or pollinators. So, you know, I've got to be very mindful of that. These cabbages and kales are beginning to head up, and the kales are obviously producing more leaves, which is obviously what we're after. And then on this side, the kohlrabis. And in amongst these kohlrabis is the purslane. Great ground cover, retains a lot of moisture, gives these guys a fighting chance. Here's the tomatoes. And they're doing okay. The leaves are curling a little bit because this is an extreme place for them to be honest. They've had their yeast solution, which is what I made up the other week. So again, that's on the channel if you want to have a look at that. Very easy thing to do. And it boosts the soil microbe life. And now as these flowers have set and producing fruits, I'm feeding them once a week with a organic tomato feed. What I have noticed is that an old tip that an old boy gave me back in the UK many years ago, when he had flowers on his runner beans, he would spray them with water to help the flowers set. And I've been doing that same theory with these guys, and it seems to be working okay. I don't give them huge amounts because I'm conscious of blight issues or disease issues, but it's just about enough, and it seems to be doing okay. So I'm quite happy with that. And in amongst all this, I've got some basil in the ground there as well. Now I have harvested the garlic, and these onions are now beginning to fall over, so they're due very, very soon. But again, I've got the carrots in the middle, and they seem to be doing all right. But I can see there some of them are beginning to struggle a little bit. But and I don't know why I got that very unusual Laura Rosso lettuce there for some reason. Another one here. But the carrots are looking okay, and then across into this bed here is where we had the garlics down the end. So that's been cleared, and now it's just carrots, and they're looking not too shabby. But I can see I've got a flower starting, so I'm just going to pinch that out. But we don't want him. And there's another one over there, so I have to get to that in a second. But look how dry it is. And I need to do something about it. So I know now that the growing spaces that have got the water are doing okay, and this way of watering is a lot more efficient, and you actually end up using less, and it's more direct. So I'm going to continue with that theory. But the problem is I want to extend it, and I want to go into a new area. Now, I came across some research recently that talked about another problem with regards to drought. So as we look out across this crop here of wheat, now that's ready to harvest. It's not far off, and everywhere else is doing the same. Now in the wild here, they've got a problem. If we look beyond the Starling Square out into the distance, that grass is bone dry, just like this stuff is here. If there was a sudden downpour of rain and then it goes dry, a disease forms on the actual plants in the ground. So in this particular case, the grass, but it could be a farmer's crop. It creates a fungal disease, and then deer, for example, come along, eat that crop and make themselves very ill. And there's been a big decline in deer populations here because of that issue. Now I've done a lot of research on it, and I'm going to be publishing it on my Substack in the next few days. So if you want to know more about that, or my recent stack about the use of rosemary and oregano and how it can help with a reduction in incidences of Alzheimer's disease, subscribe to the stack. It doesn't cost you anything, not unless you want to give me something, of course. And when you subscribe, you get a free copy of the book as well in the PDF form. And have a look at it. And I'll leave a link to the stack in the description below, so you can hit that and go on from there. But look, I've really got to be careful as to what I do here and perhaps change. One good thing about this place, I tried it last year and it worked okay. If I sow certain seeds during this month, towards the middle and the end of the month, and I can get them transplanted out by the end of August, I've just about got enough time to be getting an additional harvest. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Now the weird thing is that today they're predicting some rain here at around about 2 o'clock. So I'm hoping that the rain is going to be nice and steady, because if it's too much of a downpour, it won't soak into this solid ground. So we'll have a look at that, see what we get, and you never know, might even get a thunderstorm. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so it's 3:25 now. 25 minutes later than the prediction of the storm, but as the microphone is probably picking up, we've had quite a bit of wind in the last half an hour. So here we are, some of the acacia branches. Obviously, because of this lack of rain, the trees are a lot more susceptible to damage. And look at all the branches, and all the leaves are just blown down onto the pavilion floor here and around the back. Generally speaking, up there it doesn't look too bad, but as we come across here and look up, you've lost that branch there. I just had an email through from Jonathan, one of the viewers. He's the chap that tells me about my fake acacias. Very knowledgeable guy, and he's been down further south than me for the last, I think it's 13 years, and Jonathan, if that's wrong, then do let me know, but he's in that kind of direction. He was telling me that he had quite a lot of heavy rain. Having had the windstorm, he's now having loads of rain. It's in that direction. I mean, it'd be nice, but I would love it to be a nice and gentle trickle for the next couple of days. Let's see what we're going to get. Okay, now it's 24 hours later than the last part of the video you saw of me walking around looking at the damage from the wind, and the question is, did we get any rain? Well, it was forecast, and during the afternoon and early evening we got nothing, but what we did get was a power cut, and that happened around about 5:30 in the afternoon, and it went right the way through until about 1 o'clock this morning. As for the rain, well, it came last night, and there you go. We still got moisture on the concrete step outside the shed, so it also indicates that the temperature has dropped quite considerably by about 12 degrees Celsius. So we're sitting around about 24, 25 degrees C, and it's not evaporating, which is a good thing, and it's given the ground a chance to suck up that moisture. All 5.6 millimeters of the rainfall that we've had in the last 24 hours. So in the scheme of things, it's not a lot, because in July here we should get around about 35 mil. I don't think we're going to be seeing that, and certainly in June we should have about 60 mil. We didn't get any, so we are definitely in drought conditions here. And that green crop you can see in the field opposite, I'm not quite sure what that is, and I don't remember the guy who looks after that field actually sowing any seeds. So it could well be the residue of last year's crop that failed miserably. No idea. But it looks a little bit greener, apart from the bit up the top. But I've got issues here. I've really got to address how I can save my vegetable production here and keep it organic. So I'm going to have to adapt. It may sound crazy to you, but I'm going to expand or double the size of this growing space here, right up to the back of where that archway is and beyond. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to tell you in the next video. So for now, take care. I'll catch you next time.